Jones, no producer this week. She's at brunch. It's an off week.
We're live on both.
There you go.
Good morning, Browns Nation.
Wow, that's
a little deep, I know.
Yeah,
well,
good.
I'm without my coffee.
Welcome back. This is episode 2.
Yep.
March 13th.
I think we've had a busy week, Tyler.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty gnarly, to say the least. And it's not even free agency yet.
I know. Everything's happening way before it normally does. So I guess we'll just jump right into it. As far as news goes, the trades of the week.
Yeah, we had 3 trades where we got something back in an actual player this year. And then we had a 4th trade where we traded away Danny Sheldon. And we got 2 trades back. So we got a trade for this year and a trade for next year.
You mean pick?
Yeah, pick, whatever.
Well, you can't trade to be named later. Doesn't work in the NFL.
Yeah.
But
we got Tyrod Taylor.
I guess you wanted to break it up. We'll talk about the Taylor trade first because that's kind of, when it comes to the Browns and quarterbacks, that's probably our biggest one.
Yeah. I mean, Tyrod Taylor to me, you know this from the past few years of fantasy football. I usually always have him on my team. He's consistent. That's his biggest thing. He's behind Rodgers and Brady for TDs to interception ratio, an active quarterback. So,
Which is the opposite of Kaiser?
Yeah, the exact opposite. So, is he going to be thrown into... I mean, here's the question of all questions. He got benched for Peterman, and I never understood. We watched that entire game, and there was interception after interception after interception, and that doesn't seem... In the NFL today, I don't even know what the Bills were thinking. I'm sure there's some logic there, like they were just trying to figure it out. But to me, Tyrod has been so consistent. It was the equivalent of when San Francisco refused to put back in Alex Smith.
Well, and that's why I would kind of parallel to that is the Bills no longer wanted that game manager safe bet at quarterback. They wanted somebody to come in, make a big splash, and Peterman did. But unfortunately, a big splash for the other team. So that's kind of why I think the Bills wanted to move on for Taylor from Taylor.
Jim Kelly was the last quarterback to get them to the playoffs before Taylor. Taylor got into the playoffs, got hurt in the last few plays. I know his name's Peterson, but I always call him Peterman from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Peterman.
I'm Mr. Peterman. Technically, the Bills still could have beat Jacksonville. But Peterman went in, and he threw that pick. There was some stat that came out that said he was on pace to throw 47 picks in that game if he had started that game from that one play, because he was in I think two offensive plays. One incompletion, and the second one was an interception. Okay. And Tyrod Taylor had kept them in the game. Whether you want to say he kept them in the game, didn't lose them in the game, whatever you want to say, Jacksonville's defense was the best, bar none, and probably still will be the best this year. And to have a quarterback that can just keep you around, who was his wide receiver?
They got rid of Watkins. Yeah. They brought in Benjamin late from Carolina, but
I mean, he's a walking knee injury, and that's an oxymoron. But he's just a big, giant torn ACL running around the field.
Well, and let's kind of transition from what Taylor was for the Bills to what he could be for the Browns.
Yeah, I mean,
because I think that's the biggest thing is now the Browns shift away from having unknown at quarterback to now having a known commodity who we know is going to be able to effectively pass the ball, move the ball forward. He may not be able to do the big plays as much as somebody like, say, an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady, but he's not going to turn the ball over.
Well, and he can also do what I think most quarterbacks... we would want most quarterbacks to do, which is just enough to not get sacked when he needs to. So it's it's 3rd and 3. We call a slant route and no one's open. He can squirt away and get 3 or 4 yards. And Tom Brady cannot. And you saw it in the Super Bowl. That's the one thing. He's not a pure passer, but he can flick the ball pretty well. If you watch Taylor's highlights from Virginia Tech on, he has a good arm. It's not great. But what this also does for the Browns is everyone's saying they're still going to draft a quarterback in their first 2 picks. And I think that is one of the stupidest things you could do. If in those first 2 picks, the quarterback that you get is not a quarterback you want to have. If it's not someone, if you're not I really want Sam Darnold, and Darnold's not there at 4, don't just take Josh Allen because Josh Allen's there.
And see, it's funny you mentioned that, and I don't want to. I think we should move on from the quarterback subject because there's so much to talk about in this week in trades. But do you look at going Barkley, Fitzpatrick? So now you have two young studs on offense and defense that you know are going well.
Yeah.
No in the NFL is kind of a rough term, but you hope will be the future kind of centerpieces of those two sides of the ball, and then get somebody like a Lamar Jackson who has a question mark, but you can probably get him in the second round fairly easily, potentially.
First pick of the second round.
And now you've got a very much a similar to a Tyrod Taylor
and you have
learn under Tyrod Taylor.
A 4-year rookie deal of potentially a Watson Jr. And he's learning how to control the ball versus just get squirrely.
Well, and he doesn't have to come in and play right away. He could if something unfortunate were to happen to Taylor.
Which that's the joke is the Bills and the Browns swapped an 8-game quarterback.
Well, I think with the line that the Browns have,
yes,
with the now talent as we'll talk about in a second here, they've put around on the outside.
Yes,
and the potential to have a game changer at running back.
I don't know why he would ever get hurt, to be quite honest.
But the thing is
just getting out of the pocket.
You've built something now around a quarterback that can manage the game.
Yeah, and that's all we need.
Who doesn't need to do everything. So I guess that's a good transition into the Jarvis Landry acquisition.
I still can't believe that happened. You texted me, you're like, we got Landry, and I was like, Landry Jones, the quarterback from Alabama. That's I honestly didn't even think that it was Jarvis.
Heir apparent in
AJ McCarron 2.0.
Yep.
Landry Jones, and I was like, wow, I seriously can't believe he was cheap. Let's be honest. For what we gave up, a 5th and a 7th,
yes, I think value-wise, we ended up ahead on that. The other big thing is you look who he's going to be paired up against. Gordon's probably coming back.
Yeah, Gordon's from everything that I've read and understand, Gordon's definitely coming back. Gordon's going to be. I think Gordon is probably the most underrated number one. I think he still is a number one with Landry. I think Landry is the best complementary wide receiver in the NFL.
I don't think we've seen enough of Gordon to say he's a true number one, and he has to both on and off the field piece everything together this year, I think, really.
I'm so biased towards him.
The potential is there. I mean, I've watched Gordon because I've had him on a fantasy team before, and he has won me games just by being him. Remember a couple of years back, what was that game, like 200 yards and 3 touchdowns? He was just on fire. But he has to keep it together on and off the field.
Think about this year's first game back. He went up against Casey Hayward, San Diego, considered one of the best number one cover corners in the AFC in general and in the NFL in general. Mm-hmm. They only threw him the ball, I think, 4 times in that game. He caught 2 of them because the other 2 were probably not really catchable. 2 of them for 60 yards just right out the gate.
Well, that first game, who was the starting quarterback?
Was it Kaiser still? Kaiser was fucked up because he had a concussion from the previous game, and Kaiser is Kaiser. And no offense to the Green Bay Packers, and we'll get into that trade next, but Kaiser, it's now Gordon's never had a quarterback. Any resemblance of a quarterback that could throw him a deep ball, could throw him an in, can throw him an out, can throw him a back shoulder. He's never had that. Mm-hmm. And now you're giving... I don't know. I just love Josh Gordon. That's my thing. I think he is with a quarterback. If he had Matt Stafford, he would have been better than Calvin Johnson. And he has problems off the field that keeps him off the field. I get that. But now you pair that with Jarvis Landry, who is a guaranteed 7 to 8 yard reception receiver. Oh, I need 6 yards. Boom, Landry in the slot.
So is that how you would set it up? Would you do Coleman on one side, Gordon on the other, and run Landry out of the slot? Is that how you kind of foresee it going?
I would run that offense and, Barkley out of the backfield. So, Taylor, just don't throw to the other team. And, if you match that up with anybody in the AFC North, but Jimmy Smith in Baltimore is the only exception of a cornerback that I still think could lock someone down. I don't think Pac-Man Jones has it. I don't think that other corner for...
Well, I think there's questions if Jones is even coming back to the Bengals. I think he's a free agent this year.
Well, he will probably go back to him. He's Thug Life, and that's how they like it there. But it's I don't think just think of the games we have to play, right? We have to play the Steelers, we have to play the Ravens, and we have to play Cincinnati.
Well, and I think also the road to your playoff, you have to win through your division.
We could, like, I'm getting, like, tingly because I honestly think just with what we've already added, because I don't know, I've always liked Taylor. Like, I told Heather, she went to a fish fry and she came home Friday and I was like, yeah, I didn't text you, but we got Tyrod Taylor. And she's like, Taylor, the guy you really like? I go, yeah. And she goes, oh my God. Like, she is not into it as much as us, but she even, like, when I started talking about all the movement that happened, she's like, wow, they really changed it.
We kind of we keep bouncing back and forth between the players we have and the players we got this week. So let's kind of shift gears again. Let's keep with the next trade where we actually got rid of our quarterback from last year, Kaiser, and brought in some cornerback help from the Packers.
Yeah, Randall. And this is the thing with him at corner. If we draft, and I don't think we're going to draft Fitzpatrick, and I'll tell you why later, but if we draft a high-value defensive back, Fitzpatrick, we have Randall, we pick up someone in free agency, our nickel defense, again, NFC North, I keep thinking, who do the Ravens have on their team that we can't cover now? Who do the Bengals have? They have A.J. Green. That's fine. If we pick up Malcolm Butler, just stick him on him the whole time.
I know you're a new Browns fan. We play in the AFC, buddy.
Oh.
You keep saying NFC. Anyway, the Randall pick to me makes a lot of sense is because now you've made the decision, and I feel bad for Kaiser in a way because I feel like he never got a great opportunity. The team from last year is definitely not the team that's going to be on the field this year. But I think a fresh start is the best for that kid. And I think under the tutelage of Aaron Rodgers, he can kind of reset and regroup as a player. Yeah. I think for the Browns organization, now you've sent the message to the locker room. We are moving on next year. We are moving forward, which is not a bad thing after you go 0-16. And I think also while Demarius Randall may not be a true shutdown corner and the help that we need, we bring in a young player. I think he's 24, 25.
Yeah, he's 25.
He's got some experience. You can put him out there, and you kind of know that you're helping that weak secondary. We kind of talked about this before we went on the air. Do you think this is the last move we make in the secondary, or do you think we try to bring in another free agent to bolster it?
Okay, so the scuttlebutt, and you can... I am addicted to Twitter because it's where I get all my news because I am...
I need to become addicted to Twitter.
And so I read a whole bunch of news, and you can follow me and Garrett are both going to be tweeting on it, but at Born Browns, and I tweet all the stories that come up. And I mean, this is before the NFL.com even publishes them. Mm-hmm. And the rumor is, I mean, Sherman has signed but not signed with the 49ers, if that makes sense.
Well, I think in the crazy NFL that is today, where we have... can you remember a year where we had so many trades done well before anything came live?
No.
So, again, everything is, of course, speculated to the ink drying, but we're looking at Sherman going to the 49ers.
Which means, because the Rams... I don't think the Rams need to keep Tremaine Johnson now. They have Talib and they have Peters. So if they keep Johnson at a nickel corner, he's not going to stay. Well, he's an unrestricted free agent because they didn't tag him. They tagged Joyner. So why the fuck would you stay? You know, it's like...
I don't think the value is there for him. Yeah. I think he's going to...
Would they pay him... Would they pay a nickel corner $15 million a year?
No.
Yeah, so, you know, that's the other thing, right? And the big issue that he's going to have to face is there's not a lot of teams that are going to pay him like a number one. The Browns can. Even if he's overvalued. If we go stupid with it and we overpay him, I think no matter what, we have to get a free agent cornerback.
Shut down corner?
Yes.
Take away a side of the field.
If it's Malcolm Butler, fine. I'm not a fan of his, but if it is Malcolm Butler, I'm okay with that. If it's Johnson, I'm even more happy because Johnson's played under Greg Williams, who's our defensive coordinator. One thing we didn't talk about last week, and I want to just throw it in there just so we think about it. We have Todd Haley. Think about the offense we now have. It is similar to the Steelers. Like, we are going to have a high-powered offense. I'm not worried about the points we can't score now. I'm worried about keeping points off the board. That's the moves we made on Friday and Saturday, quite frankly. are counterproductive to our defense. It's all it is saying our offense is not going to turn the ball over. We're going to score points. Now our defense just needs to be there. It's exactly how the Steelers did it.
Well, I think you also have to look at it too. Is our defense, and the trade for Randall also kind of emphasizes this. Our defense is young.
Yeah, very young. Our entire team is the youngest team in the NFL.
Yeah, but you know what? Since you mentioned the killer bees, Brown, Bell, and Roethlisberger. Burger.
Finn.
I think, you know what? If we do end up drafting Barkley, I think the Browns are going to have to BLT.
Yeah.
Barkley, Landry, and Taylor.
Thomas.
And hopefully, please, Thomas, come back. Please.
Joe Thomas, please listen to this.
Yes, please. So, okay, we've kind of covered now our new acquisitions and what we... I guess let's talk about what we gave up, because there's a fourth trade in there that didn't result in a player coming to us, but we definitely got more picks.
We gave up... Yeah, I mean, giving up Sheldon, to me, they've been trying to dump him for 2 years.
Well, and it may be biased from just playing Madden.
Yeah.
And he's still my focal point of... Not a focal point of my defense. Obviously, Myles Garrett is the focal point of the defense. But I kind of wanted Shelton to work out. Yeah. I understand why the Cleveland Browns moved away from him. But I always fear giving up on a young player too late, especially when you have a team like the Patriots taking him. Another foe in the AFC eventually, if you want to make it to the promised land, which I definitely think all Browns Nation wants to, you're probably going to have to go through Cleveland. Or, sorry, New England.
I know it's your first time in the
I know.
Browns.
I would love to make it have to go through Cleveland. We just have to get there. Yeah. But what do you think about what we got in return for Shelton?
I think the picks... I think everything we're doing is lining us up for this year's draft. I think... If we look at it like, oh, it's next year's pick, if it's next year's pick, if it's 2025, I think this is all collateral we can use to trade back from 4, because that's what I ultimately think we should do. I know a lot of people are going to be like, that's the stupidest thing. We need to draft a quarterback. Take Barkley number 1, trade with the Bills, who need a quarterback for real. They have a back-to-back first-round pick, which is unheard of. I think it's like 14-15 or 15-16. And then trade for one of their picks and trade for next year's third round. Then you have a stacked third round next year. You're going to keep your first round for this year. You just move back to 15. Draft a defensive lineman, an interior defensive lineman, if you get someone in free agency at corner.
So, okay, here's a scenario for you since you're talking about trading back with the Bills. So I would say, okay, let's trade back with the Bills. Do you think Mayfield, who there's been rumors that the Browns like Mayfield, will still be available at 15?
No. I think Denver's not going to pay Cousins. Cousins is locked and signed with Minnesota. I know it's not written anywhere, but just look at the writing on the wall. It's an indoor team. He has wide receivers. He has a defense.
The angle I saw, too, is taxes.
Yeah. Taxes.
Minnesota has a tax, we'll call it loophole for lack of a better word, with Michigan, where Cousins has a home in, where he only has to pay income taxes once.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, though.
I mean, yeah. So I do see the Minnesota tie there, but then you're talking about 3 quarterbacks in Minnesota without a home.
Yeah.
And none of them are going to probably end up at the Browns.
No. We're not going to pay any of them. I think, but it would be cool, though, if we had Bridgewater as our backup to Taylor, because they're almost the same quarterback. I mean, Bridgewater did turn it over on one of his 2 passes this year.
Okay. I'm going to give him a pass, because coming off a catastrophic knee injury to
his
play
leg pretty much got done.
I'm going to give him a pass. Yeah. So, I think we both agree the Browns aren't going to sign anybody out of the Minnesota group. I think, though...
I would be more surprised if Mayfield were there at 15 or 16, if for no other reason that someone did not trade up to get him. Not because the draft order... I think we're in for one of the craziest drafts we've seen in a long time. Mm-hmm. Because the Browns are going to make the statement. If they make the statement by drafting number 1 and taking Barkley, they're telling everyone else, we just took the best player. Like, you all know it. We took the best player versus the player we maybe need.
I think you're definitely saying if you take Barkley number 1, we are building for now.
Yes.
We are not building for the future necessarily. We are ready to win now as a team. 0-16 was last year. This year is going to be completely different. I think the trades definitely give off that vibe.
Yeah, definitely. John Dorsey, I mean, hallelujah, because no offense to Brown before him, but... And I know I've read many places that think Brown was just setting it up for this type of year, and it's really unfortunate he's not going to get the credit. Let's be fair. We've had cap space.
We've had number 1 picks. Multiple first-round picks.
never, ever had an offense on paper look like this.
No.
And that goes back to before being reintroduced into Cleveland. That goes back to everything like Jim Brown. Like, that goes back.
You know what? I think of the mid-'90s Belichick Browns. That might be the closest towards that end of that run.
I just think our position players' talent we're so dynamic. It's none of our players are like Landry. This is the crazy thing about Landry and his stat line. It's consistently dynamic. That makes no sense. You're either you're like static or you're dynamic, right? Mm-hmm. You throw him the ball, he's going to get you 8.8 yards a catch. That's how he does it. And those 8.8 yards are going to be spectacular most of the time. And what does that do when you're playing at home? That changes your whole fan base again. You know, people that were leaving at the end of the third because we're down 20, we could be down 20 going into the fourth, and we could come back, boom.
Well, I think it definitely. So we need to really re-energize the fan base, and yes. I think moves like this really help. I don't want to speculate on being down 20 at home anymore. I'd rather be in the game going into the fourth a little bit better. But I do agree with you on the explosiveness of this team has definitely gone up.
As long as Coleman stays healthy, I think we're good. Let's talk about what you would do in this draft. Mm-hmm. You personally, you put on your John Dorsey hat and first pick.
Is it that hat or that hat? Which one's a John Dorsey hat?
Simultaneously put them on backwards and forwards like Sherlock Holmes. So
anyway, okay. Me, if I'm the Browns drafting, this is what I do. You have to take Barkley at number 1. It solidifies your running back position, and now your offensive weapons at each of your major positions. You have wide receivers in Landry, Gordon, and Coleman that are proven commodities.
Yes.
Obviously, we got to keep people healthy. People have to stay out of trouble, but they're proven. You have a young and talented tight end in Njoku, who I think really we didn't see the full potential last year from the sole fact of there wasn't a good quarterback. You have a proven quarterback that is not a turnover machine, which when was the last time the Browns had a quarterback that could potentially play the full season? I think the only way Taylor gets replaced by anybody is if he gets hurt, which, knock on wood, will not happen. And then you add a player like Barkley, who can catch out of the backfield, who can run. Trust me, I've seen this kid play in the Big Ten as an Iowa fan. He's amazing. He's incredible. He has the skill and the potential to make defenses have to scheme around him. Now, granted, there's a big jump from playing college ball to playing pro ball, but just to have that wrinkle that you have to have somebody be on him at all times, whether it's in a passing situation, whether it's a running situation, I think is big for the Browns, and it's going to make it so you have to scheme around that whole offense.
Okay, so
it'll be mismatch central. So that's number 1.
Number 1, Browns select
Barkley.
Number 4, let's say number 2, who's it? The Giants.
We're gonna hypothetically
quarterback.
Say Giants take a quarterback.
Indianapolis takes a rusher.
I would say Chubb. So now we're sitting at number 4. I do not like taking a quarterback at number 4.
Nope. Especially if the quarterbacks are. If
I think Taylor solidifies you enough for the next 2 to 3 years that if you don't, I don't think there's an Andrew Luck player in this draft. I would not take it at number 4. I would wait. I know you give me crap for this. I really think Micah Fitzpatrick is what you take at 4. Unless you have a quarterback that you like and can take further back and you trade back to gain more picks. So, me personally, I'm going to say you take Micah Fitzpatrick at 4. Now you have a young stud on offense, young stud on defense, and you're set up to get the quarterback potentially of the future, a good backup in the first half of that second round.
Gotcha.
Maybe potentially you use one of your 2 second-round picks or even both if you really have a quarterback you want to trade back into the first.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like both of those players would be probably best available too. Mm-hmm. Let's be realistic. And I read people's comments and I read like professional analysts and they say if the Browns really like a quarterback, they should take him number 1. If the Browns really like a quarterback, they probably wouldn't have traded for Tyrod Taylor. Let's be completely honest. Why would you trade for someone that you're going to have to pay money for this year, probably next
Well,
year.
and you had to give something up.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest thing because there is no shortage of free agent game managers out there. There's 3 coming out of Minnesota alone.
Yeah, Alex Smith is a Washington Redskin, officially on Wednesday. And Tyrod Taylor, it just doesn't... I think the problem with this quarterback class, and I say this cautiously because I'm not a quarterback, obviously based on size and stature.
And we're not GMs either.
Yeah. But I think none of them separate themselves from each other enough to make it so you took Rosen, you took Darnold, you took Allen, you took Mayfield. Mayfield's the only anomaly. Mayfield because...
Well, I would throw Lamar Jackson. I'm personally a Lamar Jackson
same.
fan as well. I would love to see him succeed in the NFL. But for his skill set to transition, it's going to be an uphill climb. So best of luck to him, but I don't think he's in the same group. But it's like I just said earlier, there's no Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck was pretty much a franchise quarterback.
Everyone knew it.
The second he stepped off the field at Stanford for the last time, there is no Andrew Luck in this class. Everybody has flaws. So why would you use that number 4 pick to take a player that may or may not work out? I know the draft is all about working out or not working out, but I just don't see a quarterback fitting the number 4 pick, especially with Taylor in the mix.
And I think, and I say this cautiously, I think we get the face of the franchise with Barkley. I think a lot of teams would say there's not many running backs that are faces of franchise. I guarantee you in Dallas, Ezekiel Elliott's the face. Mm-hmm. Dak Prescott ruined it for himself this year, and it wasn't any fault of anything. It just showed you how good Elliott was. He made Prescott that much better. How many 21 jerseys do you have running around? Way, way, way more than you did last year.
And that's a good example, too, is you look at Prescott's first year. Prescott wasn't a highly drafted quarterback.
Nope.
You paired him with a game changer that is Elliott, and he is now a franchise quarterback in Dallas for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. And imagine, so 1 and 4 for you are that. 1 for me is Barkley. I think we trade out of 4. And the reason why I think we trade out of 4 is because I think the 3/4 moves we did this weekend are just the tipping point. I think there's a few more moves that are going to happen. And I think our defense, there are a lot of interior defensive linemen that are available. So you have Sheldon Richardson, who I know from Seattle and New York Jets, who people are like, well, he doesn't play every play 100%. Well, and I'm not going to say this because, obviously everyone knows it, but no shit. Like, most people don't play every play 100%, dumbass.
Well,
like,
I mean,
let's think about
there's questions about his motor.
Let's think about that position in general, though. That is in my opinion, hardest position to play 2 downs back to back at. You're going 100% into a wall every time, and you don't know if you're going after a quarterback or a running back. You have an idea, but you're hitting heads. It's like 2 rhinos running full speed.
Well, and you have to be able to play 3 directions. Play in front of you,
Yes.
play to your left, play to your right.
Pick up the blocker, push him into another. He can do it. It's just he's a little bit older, right? We have Myles Garrett, who to me is an outstanding edge rusher. Mm-hmm. If we got, middle of the first round, I can't think of an edge rusher other than Chubb right now, but I know there are other edge rushers, like one from Alabama who's pretty good that might still be there. Mm-hmm. We have, think about if Clowney and Watt had stayed healthy.
I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic this year if they can stay healthy.
If we get someone young like that we can pair up in tandem, we have a pass rush.
But see, I like Agba, who we already have off that other edge. And that's where I kind of lean towards. You beef up your secondary with more young talent, and that will kind of pull the pressure off of that interior until you can develop somebody you really like. Or maybe you take a defensive lineman later in the draft, depending on how deep it is.
And I think this is the conundrum that all NFL GMs are in. Is it the chicken or the egg? Do we get to the quarterback before they can throw the ball, or do we know they're going to throw the ball, so we have to stop the throw? Yeah. Right? And that's ultimately that comes down to where I'm in the mindset of get to the quarterback at all times, because the one thing that stopped Brady was pressure. That's the one thing this year that stopped Brady. He went up against great defenses. He went up against Jacksonville, was still able to throw the ball. Maybe not as successful as normal, but when he wasn't able to throw the ball, it's because they had a gnarly pass rush. Let's talk about tomorrow, March 14th. And we have we have free agency officially opening,
Yep.
right? It's the start of the 2018 NFL season. There are a lot of things that are going on and moving pieces, and people have already met, and all these things, right?
Backroom deals.
Yes. Shake, shake, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So let's talk about really in the dream, the perfect scenario. So you take Barkley Fitzpatrick. That's locked up, even though that's in a month or two from now.
That's a long time away.
But you're in free agency, and you say, okay, we probably still have $60 to $70 million to spend, because Landry, we're going to sign him to an extension and probably backload it. So Taylor,
I think you probably signed Taylor to a deal too as well.
So you have free agency hits, a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of everything.
Yep.
Where is your focus tomorrow? Who would you be calling first?
And that's where I go, where you kind of said in the draft you would go away from Patrick and try to draft a D lineman. That's where I think you pursue more in free agent. I think the market for we're both agreeing that Joyner's probably going to be.
Joyner got tagged. So
not Joyner. It's the other
Jermaine Johnson.
Jermaine Johnson. He's probably your best available cornerback, and there's a lot of teams hungry for a cornerback.
Yep.
I think the Browns can pay him. I think the Browns could overpay him and bring him in, and it wouldn't be a bad thing. But I don't know if I would gamble so much on that kind of a commodity when you could get a Swiss Army knife in Fitzpatrick in the draft. I would say that's where you go for your defensive line talent. And that's where you try to bring somebody in like a Richardson or a Wilkerson. Wilkerson's going to be available. I think you can find somebody in free agency there that would plug a hole pretty effectively.
Think about, I think his name's, God, I always...
Because here's the other thing.
Dontari Poe played in Atlanta, played in Kansas City before that. He's a free agent. John Dorsey knows him.
True.
He's a little bit older, but what does he bring? He brings veteran leadership to a very young locker room.
And that may not be a bad idea. The other thing, going even farther in the future, next year's draft, Oliver out of Houston.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I highly doubt he'll be available for the Browns, but that's a type of player like a Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
They're outside of Chubb. Is there that next kind of player in this draft? Not saying you have to hit a home run with everybody, but
I think
that's where I think building the defense out of out of free agency is a better bet.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I just don't. It's not that I think it's a good plan. I think it's solid. I just think the overpayment needs to come from a position that will every single play get you something. So a play like Wilkerson or Richardson, who played for the Jets, they can get to the quarterback maybe every third or fourth play, and they can disrupt. They can stop the run a little bit. Again, chicken or egg, right? So you want to attack it with an older, maybe not so hungry player. And I'm in the mindset of Malcolm Butler, like, I don't know. He does his job well enough where I wouldn't be worried with Antonio Brown on the outside with Malcolm Butler. That's me personally. I'm not as worried. Jermaine Johnson, same thing. I would be willing to pay for that known not worriness. Like it's like
okay.
Like I'm okay with that. Versus I get a little bit older in the middle and I start stacking up, and we could do all of it. To be real, we could do all of everything we're talking about.
We have the room.
Yeah, but it just seems John Dorsey, when I look at our roster right now, has made it a landing spot for free agents. Before Friday, I mean, who was going to come sign, what do you have? Like, you have a really young team. Like, I don't want to go rebuild. Now it's like, we're not rebuilding, dude.
Well, I think we've set the foundation.
We are restarting.
I don't think we're out of the rebuilding phase yet by any stretch of the imagination, and won't be until we start winning. But I definitely agree with you. We are much more enticing for free agents.
Yeah.
Because you now have said on the offensive side of the ball, we have a good offensive line. We now have good weapons. We now have a quarterback that can manage it, which then also brings in to say, all right, you want to come play defense for us. Or you're not going to have to win the game. You just need to keep us in it.
Make a few plays. And when we talk about last year, the turnovers not happening, I look at it and say, well, if we don't turn the ball over as much, then we don't really need as many turnovers, right? Like they're inversely together. We have one play on special teams that goes back to the house, whatever. We gave up a touchdown on kickoff. That's fine because guess what? We can score now.
So I guess to kind of wrap this up. So I'm going interior defense.
Yeah, I would go cornerback.
You're always trying to bring in a cornerback.
In free agency, I feel like you get the most known value. And it's probably because I'm jaded with who is the dude that played for Tennessee that was crazy that went to Washington? He's a nose tackle.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking
Albert
about?
Hainsworth.
He was the perfect example of why I feel that position. Like I've never recovered from that incident because I used to like watching Washington play, and he just flamed out. Yeah. And I think it's that position, honestly. I think you take it's how many times can a rhino hit its head against a wall before it's like I'm done hitting my head for you right now, right? We're not winning. They're an easier position to give up on. If you're not winning by a lot, you don't have to try as hard. Let's talk about a board bet for this week, and we haven't decided what we'll do.
Yeah,
but
bet to be named later. But we have the criteria.
It will be something fun. So tomorrow, start of 2018. We've made 4 moves prior to the start of 2018. Do you think that we will do more or less than 3 moves this week before next week's show?
So
that includes trading picks, that includes trading players, that includes everything, signing, all of it.
So as far as picks go, I don't see the Browns making any moves unless somebody offers us a king's ransom, moving those picks around until the draft day actually occurs, or right before it.
Okay.
As far as free agency signings, I predict the Browns will go out and sign 2 players. I'm going to say it's going to be under. I think we've made our moves on the offensive side of the ball, so we're going to go out and sign 2 free agent defensive players, and that's going to be the wrap up for the week.
Okay. Yeah, I was just looking because Romeo Cromartie from the Giants just posted that he is no longer a Giant. So, once a Giant, always a Giant. Thanks, everyone. I'll miss my dogs. So, he'll be available.
Well, that kind of adds I think that kind of adds to the mix, but I'm still sticking with 2.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go with push. I think we make 3 moves, and it's speculative. I know nothing. I don't know anyone. So if
you don't know John Dorsey?
No, I don't.
He just hit me up.
I figured that's what that chime was. I think they're going to go after a cornerback for sure. I think they're going to get either a linebacker or interior pass rusher, just like you said. And then I think they're going to pick up just a random piece that we don't see yet. And I think that piece is what's going to actually change that. Okay. It could be a backup quarterback. It could be a running back that we don't have any clue about. It could be let me throw this at you. LeGarrette Blount, Barkley, Johnson. That's the same 3 pretty much that Philadelphia had. I'm just saying, LeGarrette Blount, put him on the goal line when Barkley really needs a breather.
Well, and I think Barkley's definitely your home run hitter, your long distance back. We still need that hammer. I guess something we didn't discuss. Would you count re-signing a player as a move?
I think it's only acquisitions of talent.
Okay. So. Because I definitely think with the acquisitions we've made on the offensive side of the ball, Joe Thomas is going to re-sign sooner rather than later.
And Joe Thomas loved Tyrod Taylor. He had been saying since like 4 years ago, Tyrod is one of his favorite people to watch.
So, okay, I've got 2.
Okay.
You've got 3. We'll see what happens.
3 or more is I'll take the over. So 3 or more.
3 or more. I'm going under. I'm going to go. 2 is probably the max we see coming out of this. Right. I think free agency is going to be crazy. I think we're probably going to see a lot of moves early. And I'm guessing by Wednesday, you're going to have an idea of what the NFL is going to look like next year. I don't think... Because look how long Sherman was on the market. Friday to roughly Saturday night.
And the joke that I had been reading was he knew he was getting released. He told his agent he would only play in 2 places, San Francisco and Oakland. And that was because... Or 3 places. San Francisco, Oakland, and ex-San Diego Chargers. Mm-hmm. because he is a California kid. He's from Compton. So he played at Stanford. It's logical he goes back to that area, right? This is just a curveball for you.
Okay.
But looking at our roster right now, we don't make any moves. We draft however we think we're going to draft. We take a running back, quarterback, whatever. The AFC North, to me, is...
You got it right.
I know. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. Is it winnable? Just winnable. We're not going to blow the roofs off. We're not...
I think the Ravens are definitely beatable. I think Pittsburgh's going to be your biggest hurdle to get over to. And I'm drawing a blank on the third team.
Yeah, it's Andy Dalton, Cincinnati.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, definitely. I think the Ravens and the Bengals are definitely beatable for the Browns in their current state next year.
So we were talking about places that we would go watch a game next year. Mm-hmm. They have Denver.
Which is, 8 hour?
Yeah, it's about 8 hours.
8 hours away from us.
Denver, you got New Orleans.
Which the wives are really pulling for New Orleans.
Houston.
Well, I've got family in Houston.
Those are the three that I think were the main three. And
it's a dome, too.
Obviously, Cleveland, too. But
yeah, we'd like to make it out there.
3 of the road games that we have are against teams that, for the past few years, have been winning, except for Houston. Houston's been off and on, up and down.
I think Houston's going to be a dangerous team next year.
I think the one thing that I like about our roster, and right now as it's currently constructed, is injuries don't scare me. Houston, if you injure if one of their players goes down, that's their quarterback or their edge rusher, they collapsed. It's exactly what happens for them. When I look at our team, I think that's a winnable game. It's not winnable in the sense of like we're going to blow you out or anything. It's winnable in the sense of 30 seconds left, Landry takes off, and he gets a 35-yard scamper for a touchdown to end the game. I think that's how that game goes, if we're even in it. If we're not in it, we're not in it, right?
So, okay.
But those are the three games that we were thinking about going to. Those are 3 teams that I'm not as scared as I was Thursday about playing against. Where if I wear a Browns jersey and I'm going to be laughed at. And I just love that. I love how much we did.
Mm-hmm.
And
so, okay, I'm predicting second place in the AFC North next year. I don't think we quite get over the hump and get past Pittsburgh, but I definitely see us getting past Baltimore and getting past Cincinnati.
I am going to do... So that's your prediction.
That's
prediction. Going on the board.
The long-term board bet we still haven't figured out. Yeah.
Second place, AFC North. I'm going because I am just have a feeling... First place, AFC North. We'll be a 4 seed or a 3 seed. We're not going to be a first or second seed. And the reason why I'm saying this is I think Pittsburgh cannot sustain it any longer. I think their time is up. They're old on defense. They're getting older on offense. Roethlisberger is 1 hit away from not wanting to play anymore. Make it happen. All you have to do is just win these games in your division. You're fine. You're gonna go there. So, thanks for listening. Make sure you follow us on Twitch, Born Again Browns. Mm-hmm. Follow us on Twitter, Born Browns, because I don't know how to make a Twitter.
That's okay. We forgive you. And then on YouTube as well, Born Again Browns.
And you can also send us an email with questions, recommendations, concerns. bornagainbrowns@gmail.com. We'll check it.
Did we get our Stitcher up and running?
I don't think we have Stitcher yet, but you can get us on SoundCloud.
Okay, that's it. SoundCloud. It wasn't Stitcher.
So we are on
SoundCloud.
Born Again Browns. We're also on Apple Podcasts. So if you have an Apple device, you can go on the podcast side there, or you download iTunes. You can get it on your computer. Share it, like it, follow us, send us questions.
Yes, we need feedback. We'd love feedback. Is the show too long? Is the show too short?
There was someone this week that did comment on the video. He is from Oklahoma.
Yep.
And we really appreciate that.
We know we did. I don't think I responded. I saw it too. We are trying to get used to this whole entire thing. We are definitely not web celebrities, but we appreciate the shout out from Oklahoma.
Yep.
He had a lot of feedback on Darnold.
Yeah.
I think.
And I think it was all valid.
Yeah.
I agreed with it. Cement feet, USC quarterback. I mean, 100% on point. And one thing that we are going to do next week is we are going to do, because it's St. Patrick's Day, we might have a few more Luck of the Irish board bets that come out. It'll also be the full week that we can see what we do, right?
I think we need a board to put the bets on.
Yeah, okay. Well, there's a wall right there.
All right. So we probably should wrap up. It's been fun.
Yep.
We appreciate talking to you guys in Browns land, and we'll see you next week.
Believe land.
Believe land.